Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant. It really is a strange time in the world right now, and there's a lot going on out there, and what's more, a lot of us are stuck at home. And now I don't really want to get into the specifics of the whole situation too much, because at the end of the day, I really don't feel there's much I can say that hasn't already been said far better by other people. One thing I do want to say is a huge thank you to all the key workers out there, the essential workers that really are keeping things going in these crazy days. On the other side of things, there's a whole load of us now stuck indoors, and finding some free space away from all these difficult subjects and issues over the coming weeks, well, free space is likely to become something that is increasingly important and cherished to people everywhere. And as gamers, we kind of have a natural avenue for that type of escapism. And it's a very good thing, and yeah, a lot of us probably have thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours in gaming already from the past few years and the past few decades. But nonetheless, today I just wanted to put together a very simple video about a few great games that we can play whilst stuck indoors. And actually, a huge part of my channel is about space games, so it makes sense to look at space games in general. It's also highly likely that many of you will have played some of these games before, if not all of them, but my take on this is that now is a great opportunity to return to an older favourite, or pick up a game that you've been meaning to play but never gotten around to. In addition to all being space-themed games then, another thing most of these titles share is long-term goals and long-term playability. So from that point of view, this isn't going to be a review of these games or anything like that. I'm really thinking about these games from the point of view of longevity, like I say, and getting the most out of them with the hours and time that many of us now find ourselves with. So some of these games take a lot of time to get anywhere significant, so seriously, what better time for that than now? Now this won't be an exhaustive list of all the space games ever, but it will be a few that I consider would be a time well spent. And if you have any other suggestions, do check out the comment section where I will pin a comment and you can leave some titles and some other suggestions there for everyone to pick up on. So where to start? Well, I guess why not with the oldest title on the list, EVE Online. It's currently a free-to-play game, but don't mistake that for a truly free-to-play experience with free-to-play mechanics, because there is a huge amount of depth to this game. And it's also worth pointing out that free accounts do have some pretty hefty restrictions when it comes to EVE Online, and that meanwhile a full account actually requires a monthly subscription, which you can also actually earn with in-game currency. Subscription in this day and age, of course, make it an exception rather than a norm. But back in 2003, when EVE was released, a subscription-based MMO was a growing trend, a huge business to get into if you actually could. And if you're looking for a slow burn game that will eat up hours of time, a game where you can build assets and resources, explore a huge universe and maybe even potentially make a name for yourself, then EVE is a great option. If you're also keen on socialising whilst playing, then EVE is probably the best space game title out there for that. The game is built on group play after all, where players come together to form huge corporations, so mixing with others whilst you're trapped at home will certainly be a huge part of getting involved with EVE. Now, progress in a game like this can of course be daunting, not to mention a little slow for new players, but the tutorials are reasonable and will get you through the early steps. And also, despite the reputation that EVE has in some circles for being a notorious gangfest, I've personally found the community to be very helpful and welcoming towards new players. But that said, vast areas of space are jealously protected and gate camping is without doubt a thing, so yeah, if you're not a big fan of choke points and getting hit in those sort of areas, then yeah, it's one to avoid, but it's highly likely that at some point or another you will get attacked by other players. But honestly, this shouldn't put you off. EVE is perhaps one of the best long-term online space games out there, and right now is perhaps one of the best times ever to jump in and to try it out. So with one of the best multiplayer space games out there already mentioned, it's only fair to also discuss one of the best single-player space games. X4 Foundations has so many of the things that makes EVE Online great, but offers them in a single-player environment. Of course, without other players, it is missing many of the elements that offer a sense of danger, and it's certainly missing all of the political drama and intrigue that EVE offers. But not everyone is looking for that type of experience, and some people just want a galaxy to explore and a great economy to get involved in. The X series then has always had an immensely strong focus on the economy side of things, And whilst X4 has had more than its fair share of problems and hurdles in this regard, over the time since its release, it's gotten into a pretty darn good place. Now, building and owning your own space stations and fleets of ships, conquering areas of space, combat and trading and many other things besides is all there, and it's certainly possible to invest a ton of time into X4. And with that can of course come some great returns in the form of a galaxy that is yours to do with as you please. And of course, let's not forget the huge Split Vendetta update, which is due to arrive on the 31st of March. Plenty then to dig into. Not all single-player space games need to be about massive space battles or massive economic interests. If you're actually looking for a space adventure with a more focused aspect to it, then Rebel Galaxy Outlaw is the place to look for sure. Like a lot of space games, Rebel Galaxy does have some trading, a lot of combat, missions, mining, and many other things besides. But here, the focus isn't to dominate the galaxy, but rather to play within that galaxy. To this end, the game has a reasonably long campaign, around about 20 hours on average for the main story, and maybe as much as 25 hours if you do the extras and side quests as well. I've also heard some players spending as much as 60 hours on this title, but for me that seems to be a bit of a stretch on the extreme side. So whilst this isn't a game that will last you thousands of hours like most of the other titles here, it is nonetheless a great piece of space-based escapism. Also worth a mention in this same category is Starpoint Gemini 3, which went into early access last year. This week it's just reached its beta milestone with a whole ton of updates and new content, and whilst the title is still in early access and far from complete, the latest update expands the game's campaign, allowing players to move further through the narrative than previously, and this has been accompanied by new player models and animations to generally improve things all round. Now, a new capital ship combat system has also been added in, and this will allow for the targeted weak points, or for targeting weak points rather, when fighting large ships. Eventually, this is a plan to also lead other players into owning their own capital ships. For now, Starpoint Gemini 3 is available for PC players over on Steam. So for certain, nearly everyone watching this video will have already played or perhaps already own Elite Dangerous. But on the off chance that this video has somehow made its way as a recommendation to you, and you've never actually seen one of my videos before, then Elite Dangerous is among the largest games out there in terms of play space. 400 billion star systems, and that's the entirety of the Milky Way by the way, and you can actually visit each one of them. For those of you still playing the game, now's a good chance to get involved some more and perhaps even save up for the release of fleet carriers. For those that haven't played for a while, then it's worth thinking about jumping back in, especially if you haven't played for a long time. After all, over the past few years there's been a lot of updates and quite a lot of changes to the game. And while some of those changes are fairly minor, such as the improvements to trading, others are far larger, like the changes to mining and exploration. Elite is quite easily one of those games that will suck up hours of your time, and if you are, like many people, stuck at home, then there's a lot that you can get done with your time in Elite. What's more, Elite is a good option if you're a solo player and or a social player. The solo mode means you never have to see another person if you don't want to, whilst the open mode allows you to play with others. And whilst the multiplayer aspect of this game, along with the group-based squadron feature, isn't exactly anywhere near as being comprehensive as what can be found in EVE Online, Elite nonetheless has decent multiplayer aspects that many people do enjoy. And if nothing else, Elite is one of the few ways to explore the entire galaxy from the comfort of your own home. Whilst on the subject of size still, No Man's Sky has Elite beat with 18 quintillion planets. Now whilst Elite goes firmly for as much realism as possible, No Man's Sky has no such limitations. What this essentially means is that it's a game that you can explore for endless hours. It's also a very tranquil and peaceful game in a lot of ways. If you need a way to relax and get away from any anxiety or stress, then No Man's Sky is a great option for that. The game really needs no introduction or description beyond that, to be honest, as it easily is the most famous game on this list. Unlikely at this point nearly everyone will have at least heard of it. All the recent updates though, combined with a large scope of the game, mean that this is a great title to get lost in for hours at a time. So yes, it's not a finished game, and by the time we all get back outside again, it will still be an unfinished game. However, if you're willing to overlook the early access and or the ongoing development, as we could call it, nature of this game, and if you find yourself able to put up with bugs here and there, then Star Citizen can be fun for sure. Whilst it doesn't currently have a lot of fully finalised game loops, there are nonetheless some game loops present and accounted for. And what's more, the ships in Star Citizen are second to none, although they darn well should be due to their price. But ships in Star Citizen genuinely do feel like the real thing, and there's seriously no other space game that comes even close to realising such great looking and detailed ships. The planets are also very nice, and you can easily lose yourself for hours exploring these beautifully vast worlds. Whilst I wouldn't be willing to state that Star Citizen, in its current form at least, will give you thousands of hours of gameplay, what it certainly will do is give you a universe to explore unlike any other. People also have a lot of fun with Star Citizen when playing in groups or just when playing with a friend or two, but do keep in mind that you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on the game despite its reputation. Just I think $45 will get you the basic package, but also be aware that the basic starter ship you get isn't all that great. But if you're able to overlook all these issues, then Star Citizen is at least worth taking a look at. Now, if you don't actually fancy flying spaceships yourself but still want a vast themed space game, then Stellaris might be for you. It's an awesome grand strategy game, all set in space in the 4X genre. Explore, expand, exploit and exterminate your way across an entire galaxy. Now, I won't lie, Stellaris can be a somewhat of an overwhelming game to get into. It's a complex beast with tons of features, menus and functions, and even after months with the game, there will still be more to learn. There are layers upon layers here, and they all tie together and interact with each other to make a very comprehensive game. Stellaris is totally unlike any other of the space games featured in this video, and to be honest, it makes it a great candidate for owning alongside any of the other titles. So if you're looking for more than one space-themed game, and if you like strategy games, then Stellaris should definitely be an option. The last one on this list here is a game I want to revisit myself. Space Engineers has been around for quite a while now, and in that time it has grown tremendously. Personally, I haven't played it in any extensive way for a few years now, but as with so many other titles, it now feels like it's a good time to check it out. So Space Engineers is all about constructing and building things, gathering resources and then building pretty much whatever you desire, which also just so happens to include the ability to build spaceships. With plenty of time to spare these days, it feels like it might just be possible to build just about anything. So hopefully then that gives you a little bit of insight as what to perhaps try out over the coming weeks and maybe even the coming months. There's a lot to check out, and I know I've missed many titles. This video can't include them all, but this is just my recommendations. For any of your recommendations, do check out for that pinned comment thread in the video in the comment section, and well, just add your own suggestions there. I'd love to see them, and I'm sure many other people would as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.